lying, coercion, inducement to hand over my shares, and then fraudulent breach of trust of the trust document. I have also written again to him at reform to say, here's a copy of the CCJ, here's a copy of the case, and you need to pay.
We all know Nigel Farage set up the Brexit party, but he didn't. It was you. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Nick Talks. The episode's amazing guest, returning guest, is Catherine Blakelock. How are you doing, Catherine?
Good. Thank you, Nick.
Our last video did exceptionally well. I was over the moon how many people watched our last conversation. I've invited you on today because of a tweet. I woke up this morning, scrolling through my phone and saw one off you because we follow each other. And it was like, oh, you've got court papers there. You're taking a picture of court papers. And it looks like you're suing Nigel Farage. You've got court papers. What's going on with that?
Well, that was actually a county court judgment. So a CCJ that's finished that I've got against him.
Oh, sorry, I've misread it. I thought you took pictures of that saying this is what you're doing, but it's actually ended.
That's the county court judgment for £10,443 or something, and that was something like that. So yeah, it's a CCJ. So if I have also written again to him at reform to say, here's a copy of the CCJ, here's a copy of the case, and you need to pay the £10,443. If he doesn't respond again in 2 weeks, I will then try to enforce it. We know he's got lots of assets, that's not in doubt, but I've either got to find his house, which I believe is in Kent, where he lives, and enforce it, or get an attachment of earnings. So whichever is easiest to enforce it. But let's go back to the Brexit party. I considered for a long time taking legal action, but also at that time wanted Brexit and wanted, I wanted a right wing, and I still do. I want a patriotic, let's not call it right, a patriotic government. And so I didn't do anything for a while and was carrying on talking to Nigel. And also, unlike Andrew Bridgen, I don't have £2 million or any sponsorship to do a full court case against Nigel. So things obviously got significantly worse. And it was after the Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib and Howard Cox things that I decided that there was nothing to lose to do a court case.
Can I just jump in there? Why do you, well, it's not why do you think, you've proven it. Why did he owe you money?
Loss of office.
Right.
Lying, effectively, let's call it lying, coercion, inducement to hand over my shares, and then fraudulent breach of trust of the trust document. So those were the reasons. I mean, I didn't hand over my shares willingly, and Zia Youssef paid 200,000 to, he didn't directly pay it, and that I will be libelous if I say he directly paid it for the same shares, but he ended up owning the same shares.
For people who don't know, you actually set up and created the Brexit party.
Correct. Yeah.
That was you. Because that conversation we had, that first conversation, blew my mind. I was, if I'd not checked you out, I'd have thought you were crazy. We all know Nigel Farage set up the Brexit party, but he didn't. It was you.
Correct. And then I put my shares into a trust, and I had 50% of them. And I would argue there's a direct line between the 50% that I had and Zia Youssef, who's now got 50% of the same company. And he gave £200,000, and then again that. So I was promised the seat in Great Yarmouth to stand, etc. And there was a lot of coercion put on me. And eventually they wore me down and I signed my shares over and then basically reneged on anything they ever said. So the reason why I did it now was one, I didn't want a full-blown court case. I don't know if you know the Matt Hancock Andrew Bridgen case is going through £2 million and is taking 2-3 years, and barristers, and it goes on and on. We've got enormous delays in the court system. The statute of limitations was coming up as well. So I needed to get this case in before the end of the statute of limitations. And so I decided just to do the maximum in the small claims court, which is £10,000. So I made a claim for £9,999, and the other 440 are my costs, which I had to apply to the court, minor amounts of interest or something. So then obviously that went into the court system, and with the outlined with the claim, and Nigel Farage didn't respond to it.
That was going to be my next question. My next question was, did Nigel turn up at court and defend himself?
This is not a court case. This is the papers. When you have a small claims court, there's a 2 to 3 year waiting list before any hearing. So any hearing would have been in 2 to 3 years. That's how bad the small claims court. If I make a claim against you, Nick, for say £3,000, I will make the claim online, money claims online, which used to be the small claims court. I pay my fee, and the court will then send the papers to the other party, to the defendant. And the defendant is normally given, I think, 28 days to respond to those papers.
So he would have known what was going on. He just ignored it.
There's two possibilities. And we know from many other people, how disorganized reform is. It was sent, the papers were served on the company in Nigel's name, but to his company address. Either somebody got it and binned it, or lawyers told Nigel Farage not to respond to it. Because if he doesn't respond to it, then there's no hearing and no case. It's automatic judgment. So he didn't respond to it. So I've now sent him another letter saying that I plan to enforce, and we'll give him 15 days to reply or not to reply to that letter. And now I've got the county court judgment. He's got two options. He can say he didn't get it, in which case he will have to put his home address on it if he doesn't want to be served on the reform address. But then it would go to hearing if he's going to defend. Or I've got judgment, default judgment, and I will start to enforce.
What does your gut instinct tell you is going to happen next?
He's not going to respond again.
So his plan is it sounds like his plan then is to wear you down.
No, well, there isn't any wearing down, because by this point, if he doesn't respond, I simply get a court order. A court order, I can get a number of court orders. I can go after the assets, or I can get an attachment of earnings. So they will literally, the court can ask for an attachment of earnings, or I can get a charge. And if necessary, I could send bailiffs around.
Do you think it's going to get to that?
No.
Or do you think he's just going to give you 10 grand for you to go away?
I think he may.
Right. Do you know what? I always like when the David and Goliath situation, when David wins. I always like it when the underdog, when the small person wins against anybody, a multinational, a multimillionaire like, Nigel Farage. Now, I always like it when an underdog says no. I may be smaller than you, I may be insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but you're not getting away with this. And hopefully, which sounds like it still is, we've got a half decent justice system in this country. It's failing, but it's not completely failed yet. So you've got some justice out of this.
It's completely and utterly failed.
It has, right?
Completely. If you're trying to enforce on an ordinary person, I've got a case with a horse where somebody has effectively kidnapped my horse, and it's been going on for a year, and we don't have a hearing date yet. The small claims is in absolute chaos.
But in this particular case, we've you've managed to win in this particular case.
Well, that's because he didn't respond.
Ah, getcha.
But I got automatic summary judgment. But the small claims court is sometimes talking about 72 weeks, 100 weeks, and even replying to an email can take 3 months.
Mm. Yeah, it's a mess, isn't it? Our criminal justice, the justice system.
And that's without the bias of the judges. That's just in simple things like a horse or a builder didn't plaster the wall properly.
And that in itself then makes people not to go down that route, because what's the point?
Yeah, and then people start with vigilante action as the only alternative. Yeah.
We're seeing that on the streets now. Police are failing, so people are setting up their own groups to patrol their own neighborhoods. That sounds good until those groups cross the line where they start being judge and jury themselves. And it turns out that person wasn't a burglar. That person wasn't a rapist. He was just someone walking down the street visiting his mum, but he looked like someone, so he got a good hiding. That's where it always goes to when the court system lets us down. People start taking the law into their own hands. And we've seen throughout history that happen.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about small claims, though, for example, is often there isn't very good evidence, and it's just he said, she said, they said. And in this particular horse case, I have been able to prove that the guy is lying, and I can prove that to the court, and that will give me help. If you can prove somebody's actually lying, I mean, in writing, prove it, or by other videos, then that's very powerful, because often judges on these cases are literally left with, well, who was the most credible witness?
Let's end on this. So Nigel Farage gets this letter. He reads it, he finally reads it or whatever, and he goes, right, I'm running for Prime Minister now. I don't need this hassle. Let me write a check. Let me send a 10 grand. He does that. What are you going to do with the 10 grand?
I haven't even thought about it. I haven't. I may give some of it to the halal thing that we're going to talk about next, and some of it to Robin, who's done a lot of legal work. But I haven't really banked it. Let's put it that way. I still would have an enormous fight, and probably the first that Nigel will know about it is, it may be the case that the first that they pick up on it is this morning.
Yes.
Because they will see that tweet. Somebody must be monitoring social media.
Oh, absolutely. People were sharing it. Yeah.
Yeah, but then there was the issue of like, well, what happened to the letter dated the 2nd, and what happened to the papers that went there in, I think it was, I think this was put in April. So this has been around for quite a while. And then he will have been sent a copy of the county court judgment already. So he would have been sent the first papers, didn't respond, would have been sent the county court judgment, which was issued on the 18th of August, didn't respond. Well, no, the actual paper came out on the 18th, but it had been, there was another month before that when it was, he would have been receiving papers about it. And then there's another letter. So, seriously, would Reform or somebody who's opening mail just bin that? No, they would have sent that up to a higher level. And my instinct is the lawyers said, don't respond, don't say anything, because if you say anything, this is going to open a can of worms and look really awful.
Mm. Interesting, very interesting. I should have studied that tweet and read those photos of those letters instead of presuming I knew what that tweet was about, because obviously it was the end of the game. I thought this was the beginning of the game. Well done for being David against Goliath. Well done for not letting someone roll over you. Well done for taking it to court and for winning at this stage. You've won. So well done. And let me know if anything comes of this. Let me know if you get a check for 10 grand. And then we can do a follow up on this.
The interesting thing is, so I spoke to Robin Tilbert, and he said that he'd obviously never done a case trying to enforce against a sitting MP, and he didn't know whether you could. But when I went on to Chat GPT, obviously that's AI. That's obviously not a totally legal definition, but it seemed to imply that yes, you could just get an attachment of earnings to an MP's salary.
Oh, I'd be surprised if you couldn't. I would be surprised.
Well, it's because it might not be salary; it might be some other form of compensation.
Yeah, it depends how they did.
Anyway, I will wait till the 15th, see where we are, whether we get a letter back, and then see what he would like to do. And I just on another point, I don't know if you've seen, but I have now found out where his Clacton address is, and there's some controversy over that, especially in light of the Angela Rayner issue, because obviously that is his second home. And he originally said, I believe I'm buying a house in Clacton. Then he said, we're buying a house in Clacton. And then it appears that Law Farage has bought an £850,000 house in Clacton in cash. So we have that address now as well to serve.
Oh, I tell you what, Catherine, I'm always going to be nice to you. I'm always going to be nice to you, because you're the type of person nobody should piss off, because you're like a dog with a bone. Catherine, thank you so much for coming on the show. And
thank you very much. Thank you.
Let me know when there's updates to this story, and we'll jump on and we'll do an update. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.